The stars had seen many empires rise and fall. For 100,000 years, the Galactic Council had watched over the universe. 12 ancient species sat on this council. They called themselves the Elders, and every young civilization in the galaxy looked up to them with respect and fear. Among the Elders, the Velen were the oldest. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes held the wisdom of countless ages. They kept records of every species that had ever existed. Every war, every peace treaty, every extinction was written in their great archives. But there was one file that no one was allowed to read. It sat alone in a sealed room, marked with a crimson symbol that meant only one thing: absolute danger. The file was about humans. Highkeeper Morath was the only Velen alive who had read the file. He was 900 years old, which was young for his kind, but old enough to understand fear. The file contained observations from 10,000 years ago, when humans still lived on a single blue planet called Earth. Back then, they fought each other with primitive weapons. They died from simple diseases. They seemed weak in every way. But the observers had noticed something strange. Humans did not give up. When they faced impossible enemies, they found ways to win. When their cities burned, they rebuilt them bigger. When they lost loved ones, they did not just mourn. They made sure whoever hurt them would never hurt anyone again. The file ended with a simple warning: never provoke them. Let them grow. Let them trade, but never give them a reason to unite against you. For centuries, the Elders followed this advice. When humans finally reached the stars, the Council welcomed them carefully. They gave humans trade routes and seats at minor councils. They smiled and called humans their friends. But behind closed doors, the Elders watched and waited. Admiral Yuna arrived at Galactic Station Prime on a bright morning. Her ship, the Bektu, was small compared to the massive Elder vessels that floated nearby. But Yuna did not feel small. She walked through the station with her head held high, her black uniform crisp and clean. She was 42 years old. By human standards, she was in the prime of her life. By Elder standards, she was practically a child. But the way she moved made the aliens around her step aside. There was something in her eyes that they could not name. It was not aggression. It was not pride. It was simply the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly who she was. Her aide, Lieutenant Tay, walked 3 steps behind her. He was young, only 28, with sharp features and quick eyes. He noticed everything: the way the Elder species looked at them, the way conversations stopped when they passed, the way some aliens bowed their heads slightly, as if greeting someone dangerous. "They fear us," Tay whispered. Yuna did not slow down. "No. They respect what we might become." The council chamber was a vast dome of crystalline light. Representatives from all 12 Elder species sat in a circle, their seats floating above the floor. In the center, a platform waited for speakers. Yuna stepped onto it without hesitation. She spoke about trade agreements and border treaties. She discussed mining rights and travel permissions. Her voice was calm and professional. The Elders listened politely, asked careful questions, and approved most of her requests. But after the formal session ended, Highkeeper Morath approached her privately. His blue skin seemed to glow in the dim light of the corridor. "Admiral Yuna," he said, "may I speak with you?" She nodded and followed him to a quiet balcony overlooking the station. Below them, ships from 100 worlds moved like fish in a vast ocean. "You are doing well," Morath said. "Your people have earned much respect in a short time. We work hard," Yuna replied. Morath was silent for a moment. Then he said, "There is a species called the Kreth. They are young, like you, but not like you. They believe that power comes from conquest. They have been expanding into neutral territory." Yuna's expression did not change. "We have heard of them. They do not listen to the council," Morath continued. "They believe our warnings are empty words from old species too weak to fight." He paused. "I tell you this because I want you to be careful. The Kreth may test humanity. They may see your kindness as weakness." "And what do you see?" Yuna asked. Morath looked at her with ancient eyes. "I have read the old files, Admiral. I know what your species is capable of. I pray the Kreth never learn." Far away, in a dark corner of the galaxy, The Kreth Empire was celebrating. Commander Vorik stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his fleet assemble. He was young for a commander, his scales still bright green with youth, but he had already conquered 3 systems and earned the title of warlord. His advisors had warned him about the Elders' rules. They had told him about the species called humans that the Council protected. But Vorik did not care about old rules or ancient warnings. He believed in strength, and humans were obviously weak. They had no claws, no fangs, no armor. They lived short lives and spent most of them in peace. What do they have? He had laughed when his generals showed him reports about human colonies. Farms, schools. They build places for children to play instead of training camps for soldiers. They are prey animals pretending to be civilized. His target was a small colony called New Busan. It sat on the edge of human space, far from Earth's main fleets. 30,000 humans lived there, growing food and raising families. There was no military base, no weapons factory, just farmers and teachers and dreamers. Vorik saw it as an easy victory. He would destroy the colony, show the galaxy that the Kreth feared nothing, and prove that the Elders' warnings were just superstition. He gave the order to move out. His fleet of 50 warships jumped into hyperspace, heading toward New Busan. In the Council archives, the Crimson File sat in darkness, waiting. Its warning was about to be proven true, and somewhere in the void between stars, Yuna felt a cold chill run down her spine. She did not know why. She just knew that something terrible was about to begin. New Busan was beautiful in the morning. The twin suns rose over green hills, and golden light spread across fields of rice and wheat. Children ran to school with bags on their backs. Farmers walked to their fields with tools in their hands. It was a peaceful day, like every other day on this quiet world. Governor Day stood on his balcony and watched his colony wake up. He was 60 years old, with gray hair and kind eyes. He had left Earth 30 years ago because he wanted to build something good, something lasting. New Busan was his dream made real. His daughter Hana joined him with 2 cups of tea. She was 25, a teacher at the colony's only school. She had her mother's gentle face and her father's stubborn heart. "The children are excited about the festival next week," she said. Day smiled. "They should be. We have worked hard this year. We deserve to celebrate." Neither of them noticed the shadows appearing in the sky. The Kreth fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a storm. 50 warships blocked out the suns, and the peaceful morning turned dark. Commander Vorik watched from his bridge as his ships took position around the planet. 1 defense station. His tactical officer reported, 2 patrol ships, no military vessels. Vorik laughed. "This is what the Elders protect? Send them a message. Tell them to surrender immediately, and we might show mercy." The defense station commander was a retired soldier named Bake. He was 70 years old and had not fired a weapon in decades. But when he saw the Kreth fleet, something old woke up inside him. He knew he could not win. He knew his small station could not stop 50 warships. But he also knew that every second he fought was a second for someone to escape. He sent 1 message to Earth before opening fire. "New Busan under attack. Kreth fleet. Send help." Then he aimed his station's weapons at the largest Kreth ship and pulled the trigger. The battle lasted 4 minutes. The defense station was destroyed. The 2 patrol ships were blown apart. Commander Vorik watched the explosions with satisfaction. "They fought," his tactical officer said, surprised. "Foolish resistance," Vorik replied. "Now they will learn what happens to those who oppose the Kreth." He ordered his troops to land. Governor Day heard the explosions from his office. He ran outside and saw fire falling from the sky. Kreth landing ships descended on the colony like metal insects. Soldiers in black armor marched through the streets, firing at anything that moved. Day grabbed his daughter's hand. "Run. Go to the mountains. Take whoever you can. Father, come with me. Someone has to stay," he said. "Someone has to give you time." He pushed her toward the back door. Hana wanted to argue, but she saw the look in his eyes. It was not fear. It was love. The love of a father who would give everything to save his child. "I love you," she said. "I know. Now go." Hana ran. She gathered students, teachers, and families along the way. They escaped into the hills while the colony burned behind them. Governor Day walked toward the Creeth soldiers. He held no weapon. He raised his hands in the air. "I am the governor of this colony," he called out. "I surrender. Please, stop the killing." Commander Vorik came to meet him personally. The Creeth warlord was tall, his green scales shining under the burning sky. He looked at the old human with disgust. "You are their leader?" Vorik asked. "I am." "Then you will set an example." Vorik drew his blade. In the center of the colony square, in front of cameras that would broadcast to the entire galaxy, he executed Governor Day. The old man did not beg. He did not cry. He looked up at the mountains where his daughter had fled, and he smiled. His last thought was of Hana, safe in the hills. The killing continued for 3 hours. The Creeth soldiers showed no mercy. They burned the schools. They destroyed the hospitals. They killed 8,000 colonists, including 400 children. When they were finished, New Busan was nothing but ash and silence. In the mountains, Hana watched her home burn. She held a young boy in her arms, a student from her class who had lost his parents. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry, but she knew that her people needed her to be strong. "We will survive," she told the survivors gathered around her. "We will remember." 3 days later, the patrol ship Dokdo arrived. Captain Su had pushed his engines to their limits when he received the distress signal. He was prepared for battle. He was not prepared for what he found. The Creeth were gone. They had taken their fleet and left. Confident that their message had been delivered. They did not think anyone would come so quickly. They did not care about survivors. Captain Su landed his ship and walked through the ruins. He saw the burned buildings, the mass graves, the toys scattered in the ashes. He was a veteran of 20 years. He had seen death before, but this was different. This was not war. This was murder. His crew found Hana and the other survivors in the mountains. When Su saw the young woman carrying her father's last message, something changed inside him. His eyes became cold and hard like steel. He sent one message to Earth. "They killed our people. They killed our children." Awaiting orders, the response came from Fleet Admiral Kwan herself. Her voice was steady, but those who knew her could hear the fury underneath. "Hold position. We are coming. All of us. Across human space." The news of New Busan spread. In homes and offices, in ships and stations, humans stopped what they were doing and listened. They saw the images of burning schools. They heard the names of the dead. They learned what the Creeth had done, and in that moment, something ancient woke up in humanity. Something that had slept for centuries of peace. It was not hate. It was not bloodlust. It was something deeper and more terrible. It was the cold, patient fury of a species that never forgets. The elders felt it across the galaxy. The Velen High Keeper closed his eyes and whispered a prayer for the Creeth. Not because he felt sorry for them, but because he knew what was coming. The humans were awake now, and they would not sleep again until justice was done. The news reached Earth at midnight. Within an hour, every screen on the planet showed the same images: burning homes, dead children, a governor executed in his own square. The galaxy watched and waited to see how humanity would respond. They did not wait long. Fleet Admiral Kwan stood before the United Earth Assembly. The Great Hall was silent. Representatives from every nation, every colony, every faction, sat together. People who had argued for years now looked at each other with the same expression. There were no more enemies in this room. Only humans. Kwan was 60 years old. Her hair was silver, cut short like a soldier. Her face showed the weight of a lifetime of service. She had fought pirates and rebels. She had negotiated with hostile aliens. She had buried more soldiers than she could count, but she had never seen her people like this. "You have all seen what happened," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it filled the hall. "You know why we are here." She pressed a button, and the images of New Busan appeared behind her. The burning school, the mass graves, the face of Governor Day. In his final moments, 8,000 of our people, Kwan continued. 400 children, farmers, teachers, families who wanted nothing but peace. They were killed because someone believed we were weak, because someone thought humans were easy prey. She paused and looked across the assembly. They were wrong. The hall erupted. Not in argument, but in agreement. Representatives who had fought for decades stood side by side and shouted their support. Corporations that had competed for profits pledged their ships and resources. Colonies that had demanded independence now offered everything they had. Within 12 hours, the order was given. Every human military vessel was called to service. Every reserve officer was activated. Every shipyard began working around the clock. The mobilization was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. In 2 weeks, humanity assembled a fleet of 4,000 warships. Ships came from Earth, from Mars, from the outer colonies. Old vessels that had been scheduled for retirement were repaired and armed. New ships were built faster than anyone thought possible. Engineers who designed passenger transports now added weapons and armor. Scientists who studied medicine now developed new ways to heal wounded soldiers and new ways to hurt the enemy. Factory workers gave up sleep to build weapons. Farmers harvested early so their crops could feed the army. Teachers closed their schools and enlisted as medics. Everyone had a role. Everyone wanted to help. Lieutenant Tay stood on the observation deck of the flagship Guangaeto and watched the fleet gather. He had been reassigned from Ambassador Yuna's staff to active combat duty. Part of him was afraid, but a larger part was ready. "I have never seen anything like this," he said. Beside him, a young woman stared at the endless rows of ships. Her name was Hana, the governor's daughter. She had come from New Busan on the Dokdo, and when they reached Earth, she had immediately enlisted as a combat medic. "Neither have I," she replied, "but my father would have understood." Tay looked at her. He saw the pain in her eyes, but also something else. Determination. Purpose. She had lost everything, but she was not broken. "Why did you enlist?" he asked. "You could have stayed safe. No one would blame you." Hana shook her head. "My father died so I could live. I will not waste that gift by hiding. I need to be there when we face them. I need to see it end." Across the fleet, stories like hers played out again and again. Brothers who enlisted together. Mothers who left their children with grandparents and picked up rifles. Old veterans who came out of retirement, their hands steady and their eyes hard. They were not soldiers because they loved war. They were soldiers because they loved what the Kreth had tried to destroy. Ambassador Yuna returned to Galactic Station Prime for one final visit. The elder species had requested a meeting. They wanted to know humanity's intentions. They wanted to offer advice, perhaps even help. Yuna walked into the council chamber alone. The 12 elder species watched her in silence. Highkeeper Morath sat in his floating chair, his ancient face unreadable. "Ambassador Yuna," the council leader began, "we have heard about the mobilization. We urge you to consider." "I am not here to consider," Yuna interrupted. Her voice was polite but firm. "I am here to inform you. In 3 days, the United Human Fleet will enter Kreth space. We will find the ones responsible for New Busan, and we will make sure this never happens again." The council stirred. Some elders looked worried. Others looked relieved. A few looked almost impressed. "This is a declaration of war," the council leader said. "It is," Yuna agreed. "The Kreth declared it first. We are simply responding." Highkeeper Morath leaned forward. "What do you want from them, Ambassador? Revenge? Destruction?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. "We did not want this war. We built our civilization on hope, not conquest. We raise our children to create, not destroy. We dream of a future where every species lives in peace. That is who we are." She looked around the chamber at the ancient faces watching her. "But you must understand something about humans. We are not warriors because we love violence. We are warriors because we love what we protect. When you take from us, when you hurt what we love, we do not forgive. We do not forget, and we do not stop." She turned and walked toward the door. At the threshold, she paused and looked back. "The Kreth killed 8,000 of our people. They killed 400 of our children. They laughed while our homes burned. Now they will learn what the elders have always known. We are the most peaceful species in the galaxy. And that makes us the most dangerous. She left. The chamber remained silent long after she was gone. Highkeeper Morath closed his eyes. He had hoped this day would never come. But now that it was here, he felt something unexpected. It was not fear. It was not worry. It was almost hope. Perhaps the galaxy needed to see what happened when someone provoked humanity. Perhaps the lesson would prevent future tragedies. Perhaps the young, aggressive species watching from the shadows would learn to choose peace. Or perhaps they would learn too late, like the Kreth. 3 days later, the largest fleet in human history jumped into hyperspace. 4,000 ships, carrying 2 million soldiers, heading toward Kreth space. The war had begun. Commander Vorik stood on his bridge and laughed at the reports. The humans were coming. They had built a large fleet, larger than he expected. But what did it matter? Humans were soft creatures who had spent centuries in peace. They had no experience in real war. His soldiers had been training for combat since birth. The Kreth Empire controlled 17 colony worlds and 800 warships. Every vessel was built for war. Every soldier was trained to kill. They had conquered dozens of species before, and they would conquer again. Let them come, Vorik told his generals. We will teach them the same lesson we taught New Busan. He positioned his fleet at the border and waited. His ships formed a defensive line that stretched across 3 star systems. Behind them, his colony worlds continued their normal activities. The Kreth people were told that victory was certain. The human fleet arrived at the border and stopped. Then it did something strange. It did nothing. For 3 days, 4,000 human ships sat in space, just outside weapon range. They did not attack. They did not send messages. They just waited. At first, Vorik thought it was a trick. He ordered his sensors to search for hidden ships or secret weapons. They found nothing. The humans were simply sitting there, watching. What are they doing? His tactical officer asked. I do not know, Vorik admitted. The waiting continued. Kreth soldiers grew anxious. They had been told that humans were weak and would flee at the first sign of strength. But these humans were not fleeing. They were not even moving. They just watched with cold, patient eyes. On the 3rd night, Vorik could not sleep. He stood at his window and stared at the distant lights of the human fleet. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never felt before: fear. On the morning of the 4th day, Fleet Admiral Quan gave the order. All ships, attack. The Battle of the Kreth border began at dawn. Human ships surged forward like a wave of steel and fire. But they did not charge blindly. They moved with perfect coordination, each ship knowing exactly where to go and what to do. Vorik had expected humans to fight like desperate animals. Instead, they fought like a single creature with 4,000 bodies. When he ordered his ships to form a wall, human vessels split into smaller groups and attacked from multiple directions. When he sent reinforcements to one sector, humans pulled back and struck somewhere else. His communications filled with reports of chaos. Ships that had never lost a battle were being torn apart. Commanders who had conquered worlds were sending distress signals. Captain Su led the vanguard from the bridge of the Dokdo. His ship had been repaired and upgraded since New Busan. Now it cut through the Kreth fleet like a knife through paper. Stay focused, Su told his crew. His voice was calm, almost gentle, but his eyes burned with cold fire. We are not here to defeat them. We are here to make sure no one ever does this again. The Kreth defensive line broke in 12 hours. Vorik ordered a retreat, but human ships followed. There was nowhere to hide. In the following weeks, the war became a demonstration. Human forces moved from system to system, dismantling the Kreth military with surgical precision. They destroyed weapons, factories, and military bases. They captured warships and arrested commanders, but they did not kill civilians. They did not burn cities. They did not create mass graves. Lieutenant Tay led a ground team that secured a Kreth colony world. He expected resistance, but the Kreth citizens simply stared at him with confused fear. They are not hurting us, one Kreth woman said to another. Why are they not hurting us? Tay heard her words and felt tired. He wanted to be angry. He wanted to hate these people whose empire had killed so many of his own. But when he looked at them, He saw families. He saw children hiding behind their parents. He saw old people too scared to move. They were not soldiers. They were just people. Because we are not like you, he said quietly. We do not kill the innocent. Hana worked as a medic behind the front lines. She treated human soldiers who were wounded in battle. But she also treated Kreeth prisoners who needed help. Some of her fellow soldiers did not understand. They killed your father, one said. How can you help them? Hana finished wrapping a bandage around a Kreeth soldier's arm. The alien looked up at her with terrified eyes. Because my father would have helped them, she replied. That is who he was. That is who I want to be. The Kreeth Empire fell in 47 days. 17 worlds surrendered. 800 warships were captured or destroyed. Millions of soldiers laid down their weapons. Commander Vorik was the last to give up. He stood on his bridge above his homeworld, surrounded by the burning remains of his fleet. Human ships filled the sky in every direction. There was no escape. He sent one final message. What do you want from us? Fleet Admiral Kwan's response was broadcast to every Kreeth receiver on every world. We want you to remember. We want your children to tell stories to their children about this day. We want every species in this galaxy to know what happens when someone harms a human colony. You thought we were weak because we love peace. You were wrong. We are the most dangerous species you will ever meet. Not because we are cruel, but because when you hurt what we love, we become something you cannot defeat. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was quieter but no less powerful. Today, you learn what the elders already knew. Humanity is not a species you provoke. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. This is the only warning you will receive. Vorik looked at the endless human fleet. He thought of his confident predictions, his laughter at the old warnings, his certainty that humans were prey. He had been a fool. He lowered his head and gave the order to surrender. The war was over. The Kreeth had lost everything, and across the galaxy, every species watched in stunned silence. The Elder's ancient warning was no longer a mystery. It was proven fact. Humanity was awake, and the universe would never be the same. The guns fell silent across 17 worlds. The Kreeth Empire, which had terrified dozens of species for generations, was finished. Its fleet was captured. Its leaders were in chains. Its people waited in fear for what would come next. They expected death. They expected revenge. They expected humans to do what the Kreeth would have done. Burn their cities, enslave their children, erase their culture from history. That is not what happened. Fleet Admiral Kwan stood before the United Earth Assembly once again. But this time, the mood was different. Some representatives wanted blood. They showed images of New Busan and demanded that the Kreeth suffer the same fate. They called for the complete destruction of Kreeth civilization. Kwan listened to them all. Then she spoke. I understand your anger. I share it. 8,000 of our people are dead. 400 children will never grow up. Families were destroyed. Dreams were burned to ash. The Kreeth did this, and they must face consequences. She paused and looked at the faces around her. But what consequences? Do we become killers of civilians? Do we burn their schools and murder their children? Do we dig mass graves and force their leaders to watch? The hall was silent. If we do that, Kwan continued, we become exactly what we destroyed. We prove that the galaxy is a place where only violence matters. We teach every young species that power means cruelty. She shook her head slowly. That is not who we are. That is not who we will ever be. We went to war because we protect what we love. We won because we fought together. But now we must show the galaxy something even more important. We must show them that mercy is not weakness, that justice does not require cruelty, that humans are dangerous not because we are monsters, but because we are something better. The vote took 3 hours. In the end, the assembly chose mercy. The Kreeth worlds were occupied, but not destroyed. Their military was dismantled, but their people were allowed to live. War criminals were arrested and tried, but civilians were protected. Food and medicine were distributed to those who needed them. Commander Vorik was brought before an international court. He faced charges for the massacre at New Busan. The evidence against him was overwhelming. His orders, his words, his laughter as the colony burned. The court sentenced him to life imprisonment. He would spend his remaining years in a human facility, watching recordings of the testimonies from New Busan survivors. He would hear their stories every day until he died. Some thought this was too gentle. Others thought it was worse than death. On New Busan, the rebuilding began. Colonists who had fled returned to their world. They walked through the ashes of their homes and started again. It would take years to rebuild, but they were determined. In the center of the new colony square, they built a statue of Governor Day. He stood with his arms open, welcoming everyone who came to his world. Around the statue, they planted gardens with flowers from every human colony. Children would play there, laughing and running, never knowing the horrors that had happened before. Hana became the new governor. She was young, barely 26, but the people trusted her. She had survived the massacre. She had served as a medic in the war. She understood both loss and hope. At her inauguration, she gave a short speech. "My father built this colony because he believed in a better future. He died protecting that belief. I am here today because of his sacrifice. I will spend my life making sure it was not in vain. New Busan will rise again, not as a memorial to death, but as a promise of life." Ambassador Yuna returned to Galactic Station Prime for a special ceremony. The elder species had decided to offer humanity a seat on the council. Not as a junior member, but as a full elder. It was the fastest any species had ever been promoted. Highkeeper Morath performed the ritual himself. He was smiling, which was rare for his kind. "For 100,000 years, we elders have guided this galaxy," he said. "We have watched species rise and fall. We have kept records of every war and every peace. But I will confess something. We were afraid of you, humans. We read the old files. We saw what you could become. We tried to keep you at a distance." He looked at Yuna with ancient eyes. "We were right to be cautious. But we were wrong to be afraid. You showed us something we had forgotten. True strength is not the ability to destroy. It is the ability to destroy and choose not to. You could have wiped out the Kreth. Instead, you showed them mercy. That takes more courage than any battle." He extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship. "Welcome to the elders, Ambassador Yuna. The galaxy is better for your presence." Yuna took his hand and shook it. Behind her, Lieutenant Tay watched with pride. He had been promoted to commander and would serve as her new aide on the council. Captain Su retired from the Navy and returned to Earth. He was offered many honors, medals, titles, even political positions. He refused them all. Instead, he took a teaching job at the Naval Academy. His first class was filled with young cadets eager to learn from a legend. Su looked at their bright faces and felt tired. He had seen too much death. But he also felt hope. "I'm going to ask you one question," he said. "I will ask it at the beginning of every class, and I will ask it at the end. Here it is. Why do we fight?" The cadets offered answers. "Honor, duty, victory, protection." Su shook his head. "Those are good answers, but they are not complete. We fight because somewhere, someone is counting on us to come home. We fight for the people we love, the homes we protect, the futures we dream about. Never forget that. The moment you forget why you fight, you become the thing you are fighting against." In the archives of the Velen homeworld, Highkeeper Morath opened the ancient file with the crimson seal. He read the old warning one more time, then added a new entry. The humans were provoked. They responded. The Kreth Empire fell in 47 days. They showed mercy to their defeated enemy and chose justice over revenge. Addendum to original warning. They are not merely dangerous when united, they are unstoppable. They are kind until kindness fails. Then they are something the galaxy has never seen before. But they are also something else. They are good. Perhaps that is the most terrifying thing of all. Recommendation unchanged. Never provoke humanity. He sealed the file and returned it to its shelf. Outside his window, human and elder ships flew together for the first time. A new era had begun. The galaxy would never be the same, and somewhere in the stars, children played in gardens, Farmers tended their fields, and dreamers looked up at the sky. The humans were watching, the humans were protecting, and the universe was a little bit safer because of it.